Just saw this study. Have you guys heard of the double slit experiment, experiment in quantum physics? You guys heard of that before? Let me break it down a little bit. Quite some time ago, they originally did this experiment where they were essentially figuring out if the baseline, the smallest particles that make up the structure of all of matter, do those particles exist as a particle or do they exist as a wave? So is it a wave of potential and energy or is it solid matter? Essentially, they set up these two slits and they were shooting the particle through the slits, and then they put a backboard on the other side of it. And however the particle landed on the backboard would tell them if it's a wave or it's a particle. So if they shot the particles through the slits and on the backboard where the particles landed, they saw a wave, they would say, oh, the particle behaves like a wave. But if they shot the particle and it showed up as little dots, they would say, oh, it shows up as a particle. But something amazing happened when they did this experiment. They realized that the particle changed its behavior based on whether they were observing it or not. So they tested it. They did a fun test on it, and they decided to put a computer there to observe it. And they said, maybe if the scientists leave and we put a computer there to observe it, to watch it, then it will behave differently. But want to know what happened? Same thing. When it was observed, it collapsed into a particle. The observation collapsed it into a particle, i.e., turning it into solid matter. The non-observation of it kept it in the wave, the sea of quantum potential. When you think about a wave, think about pure potential of energy. When you think about a particle, we have matter. We have something we perceive as solid. But what we learned as we kept studying this is not only do particles both simultaneously exist as a particle or a wave based on the observation of it, but those particles are also popping in and out of quantum existence as all times, phasing in and out of quantum existence. It kind of breaks the brain when we hear about that the first time because we're like, wait, so nothing's solid and also nothing's real because we go into nothingness and then come pop back into existence thousands of time every nanosecond. It's wild when we really see it, but there was a new discovery, which is really, really cool. So what they discovered was that when they expanded on this experiment of the particle and the wave and the observation of the particle, they realize that through entanglement and knowing that particles are entangled, meaning that they're connected, entanglement is the connection. So through entanglement, they were observing a particle in the past and in the future simultaneously, not simultaneously, but they sort of. So they were observing particles from the past, then they were observing it in the future. And when they changed the observation in the future, or like saying, us observing the replay of this that happened 3 seconds ago is the past. Make sense? So when they observed the past and they changed the observation of it, it simultaneously changed the past. This is breaking the barriers of time scientifically. Something we know spiritually. We know time isn't real spiritually. We might even say those things. Time is an illusion, and we get it, right? But how cool that recently science discovered that the observation of history changes history. Are we getting the gravity of this, of that scientific discovery? So Sandy said no, so we're going to anchor in. The observation of history changes history. That's what that discovery was telling us. So people think history is solid, but it's not. When we change the way we see it, what we see changes, and that exists beyond time. That making sense? Starting to click? I'm going to say it one more time. When we change the way we see history, we change history. It actually influences the past. And that's what that experiment was showing us. It was the scientific proof of it. The example I'm going to provide is why I'm telling the story. So many people think their past experiences are just the way they are, that you can't change your past. That if something happened, that's what happened and that's how it's going to be forever. But what we discover with this work that we do together is that when we change the way we see our past, not only does our present change, but our past changes too. So let's say someone relates to their past and they say, my mom did this to me in my past, and it was because she didn't love me, or it was because she was angry at me. Now, when they talk about it with their mom from that place, their mom's like, well, yeah, I was angry at you. And you know what? I didn't love you in that moment. Like, whatever. She's being snarky. She's agreeing. Then that person does healing on that. This is what I see over and over and over. Then that person does healing on that. And they realize, wait a minute, my mom was just, she was angry and it was okay. And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. And it doesn't mean that I did anything wrong. It was just she was doing what she was doing to the best of her capacity. So what I'm describing is someone changes the way they see what happened in their past. They change they change what they make it mean about themselves. What I see then happen is that not only, and let me slow down. What I then see happen is that someone then starts having different memories of what happened. I'll give a real example. So, my client said to me that she felt like she wasn't loved growing up and she really didn't get a lot of attention because her parents were so busy like wanting to live a really great life. She had very high influential parents that were well known, some of them were famous artists, so she felt like what was important to her parents was making sure they still lived a great life. She felt like she was kind of discarded as a kid. Is this making sense? Are we tracking? So she always thought that she was discarded and she didn't want to be a bother to her parents. So, like, when they were at these art shows, she was just like, I better not be a bother as a kid. So she was in her adult life then trying not to be a bother everywhere she went and feeling like she was kind of like a burden to those around her. So, what we did was we healed her relationship, dissolved away the subconscious identity of her thinking she's a burden. What happened then was she started to remember different memories. She no longer felt like she was a burden, anchored into the energy of knowing she's worthy, she's meant to be here. Of course, she's meant to be here. She exists. The whole universe conspired for her to be here. She wouldn't exist. So now, this is what's happening that the experiment proved to us. What she's doing is she's changing the way she saw her past, right? Instead of her seeing her past as a very loveless experience where her parents just discarded her, when she healed her perspective of being a burden, what happened then was different memories came in, where she started to remember all the times that her parents made very special experiences to make sure the kids felt like kids and felt loved. They would have like really fun dinners where they would like sit on the floor and have a picnic in the house and like the kids could do whatever they wanted and play while they're eating. Like the parents really did special things for her to help her feel loved and feel important and help her have a childhood in a special way. So when she was looking at me on that session, she's like, how did I forget this? How did I forget how loved I really was? How did I forget all of these memories? So when she changed her past, we could have an argument about it. Did the past change? Did memories get to this is really breaking the mind. We're really expanding consciousness here. Did those memories actually happen? Did they drop in because she anchored into a different reality field, a different timeline by now having a different energy, now having a different energetic imprint? She's now in a different timeline, tuning into different memories connected to that timeline. I'll come back down to earth for a second, but that is a possibility. The thing is, how she experienced it was these memories came back. She related to her past differently, these memories came back. Amazing thing happened. Before that, her mom acted very guilty to her. She had this like guilt energy that she would then kind of like take out on her in certain ways, and then they would get into the same fight of just like, well, why'd you have kids if you didn't really want to have kids? Like the same energy that came from the same identity. Her mom then came to her without them talking, without her telling them that they had the healing. Her mom then came to her, calling her, saying, I just had the most beautiful experience of feeling so grateful for you as my daughter, feeling so grateful for the life we got to live and the special things that got to happen because you were my daughter. And her mom started to describe some memories that were happening and coming through that she had forgotten her literally her entire adult life. So what I'm sharing here is remarkable, but I see it happen all the time. Where when we change the way we look at our past and what we made it mean, it not only changes it for us, but it often changes it for those around us too. Now, the scientific discovery was science saying, yes, this is actually how it works, which is why I wanted to share it with you. Science is saying through entanglement, when you change the way you look at the past, it changes the particles in the past. Can we see how remarkable your point of perception is? When you change the way you see it, what you see changes. This is one of the most freeing things that happens because for most beings, their whole persona, the way they exist in themselves and in the world, is based on the past experiences we've had. And so many people think that those past experiences are written in stone. They think that's been their fate. That's their destiny. But what we have is this limitless capacity of our point of observation, where when we change the way we see something, what we see changes. That includes what we see in our memories. And then there's the indescribable that happens, where it starts changing what other people saw in their memories too. Tell me to describe that. I can't. I can only tell, well, I can because time isn't real and we're all connected and we shift timelines when we shift. So I can describe it a little bit, but there's quite a lot of mystery that I don't know. But all I know is that when you truly change your point of perception on the deepest subconscious level, it shifts your reality. And no matter what's been happening in the past, that choice can happen at any moment. That choice can truly happen at any moment, where you decide to change your point of perception. Isn't that cool that that experiment came out to prove these things that we know to be so deeply true? So amazing. Okay, let me check in on the chat for a moment, and then we're going to dive in. I wonder how this plays with the Mandela effect. Yeah, the Mandela effect is something that we can talk about for quite some time. But I would say the point of perception, when we truly change on a deep subconscious level, there are so many timelines that are existing simultaneously that the Mandela effect is that effect of those timelines merging. Where, have you guys heard of the Mandela effect? Is there anyone here who hasn't heard of that? So the Mandela effect came from Mandela, whatever his name was, where a group of people remembered him dying in prison. And then a group of people remembered that he got out and created a whole movement. And the people who remembered him dying in prison had news clips still from that. They had evidence. So Nelson Mandela, thank you. So they had evidence of him dying in prison. But these other people had evidence of him getting out. So what people, mainstream, put it to was the Mandela effect. If you look it up, you will see the Fruit of the Loom. The Fruit of the Loom, the underwear brand, that's a really popular one, where some people remember it with the little cornucopia basket, and some people say, no, it's only the fruit. And there's evidence of both existing. So what happens is there's so many timelines that are existing simultaneously, but what the universe is always doing is merging to the most stable timeline Okay, we're getting into ascension consciousness and talking about the reality field, but I think it's fun. So, the reason why I think this is so cool with the point of perception is because when we start shifting the perception, we start moving the timeline we're on. We shift the karma too. What is karma? A stream of cause and effect that has built momentum over time. When we truly shift the point of perception on a deep subconscious level, learn the lesson we're meant to learn, we're literally moving a timeline that changes the karma we were playing out and starts aligning us with a different potential future. Just turned into a conversation on metaphysics. Welcome to Sovereign Souls Collective. Okay, yeah, so I think, Ryan, I know that that question is really cool and can play with this so much because what is it that made those timelines merge where one group remembered that, one group remembered that, but there was some kind of a frequential match where those timelines merged to become the most stable one? But this is existing with layers of our own consciousness too. And it's existing so much faster than we can even imagine and so much more common than we can even imagine. Every thought you think is tuning you into a specific timeline of cause and effect. But it's not just the thought you think, but the one that you're thinking the most, that you really bought into, that you're really associated with, the ones you're repeating over and over. They're tuning into you into a certain timeline. And at any moment, you can change that. At any moment. It's like how, the way I've seen it before in my own meditations was it was so cool when I saw the movie Interstellar. Have you guys seen the movie Interstellar? And you know the part where he's in between time and he's in those dimensions that look like tesseracts that are boxes upon boxes upon boxes? Epic movie, by the way, and very, very accurate in terms of the physics of this universe to this point. It's a very awesome movie. So he was in between time, and how the movie depicted it was he was in a bunch of tesseracts upon itself. Tesseracts are boxes moving within one another. I guess that's how I could describe it. They're fourth dimensional form of a box moving within and out one another. So it's boxes upon boxes. And he was going to each box and seeing different timelines, different years, different ages. So, what we're doing with the thoughts we choose and we anchor into is we're moving in those tesseracts of time, of our own timelines and our own potentials. And what that experiment showed us is that through our point of observe, and I hope that the experiment didn't need to show us that, but it's fun when science catches up to what we know, right? And we see it on a scientific level. It's really great for the logical mind to then be like, oh, I'm not crazy. This is how this universe is working. It's a cool thing. So, what it's showing us is that you are, one, it's showing us the dissolution of time. But two, it's showing us that your point of focus is what's creating it. And when you change your point of focus and the way you see something, it influences the past, influences the present, and it influences the trajectory of the timeline that you're on in your upcoming times. Jeremy said, "This past Sunday, a vision of myself about 12 years ago came to mind. That version of him had no concept of this stuff and was incredibly insecure. Also used to drink a lot to numb the pain. When this memory came up, he set an intention to hold compassion and kindness for that old version." That's really powerful, Jeremy. It's really, really powerful. He said, "With this conversation of time stuff, is it possible that the older version of me noticed some of that compassion?" Yes, yes, it is possible. Something that I've seen, which has been really cool, this isn't just I've seen it once, I've seen this so many times, is that for some people that I've guided who've had a lot of, well, all humans have had a lot of trauma, but for some people I've guided with some severe trauma, there will be moments where we go into sessions and we go bring that love and compassion to that part of them that felt really alone. What I'm seeing is like a couple of the clients that they were in their bedroom as a kid, just like curled up, crying, really alone, really hurt. And we go and we bring the version of them now. This is what I call quantum timeline healing. But we bring the version of them now into the memory through imagination. We bring it into the memory with that them, like Jeremy is saying, holding that them, giving that them so much compassion. And what I've seen, which is just so freaking cool, is that people will then tell me, When I was young, I had this feeling that someone was there with me in those moments. And now I realize that it's been me the entire time. I have the chills saying that. Do you remember the scene in Interstellar where she was putting her hand through the dimensions and touching him, and they thought it was them, and they were grabbing it as, like, out there, maybe ETs or other beings that are, like, putting their hands through time, and then later on, we see that it was her? It was them the entire time? That scene is one of the most accurate things I've ever seen because of the story I just told you. So what Jeremy was just describing is this world of like, yes, the older you felt that compassion, the you that you haven't yet personally experienced has felt it, change the trajectory of the future you. The past you felt it, and the you that you are now transforms through the giving of that compassion too. Isn't that amazing? I could cry. It's so remarkable. So beautiful. Full body chills. Yeah, I had the chills when I was just saying that too. So, so beautiful. And this is why we're here. This is why we do what we do. It's miraculous. It's miraculous.